I now would like to turn to the monetary policy framework, as this framework guides the Reserve Bank's board's decisions about interest rates every month. At a very high level, the RBA's job is to support the maximisation of economic welfare of Australians with the tools and responsibilities of a central bank. Delivering medium-term price stability is fundamental here. Since the early 1990s, our operating definition of price stability has been that inflation averages 2-point-something over time. I think at this level, inflation is something that most people don't have to worry about most of the time. In terms of our policy framework, we adopted a flexible inflation targeting framework around 3 decades ago, and that framework has been supported by successive governments. Under that framework, our operating objective has been to have consumer price inflation between 2 and 3% on average over time. I'd like to highlight 2 aspects of this formulation of our framework for you. The first is the focus on 2 to 3%. This focus has provided a really important nominal anchor for inflation expectations in the community. While inflation has varied from year to year, and we're seeing that again now, while it's varied from year to year, it has always returned to the 2 to 3% range. And it's also averaged 2-point-something% since the early 1990s. The second aspect of the formulation of the inflation target that I want to highlight for you is the on average over time aspect of the target. This formulation has provided the board with the flexibility to respond to various shocks in the economy. We can pursue price stability in a way that best contributes to full employment and the economic welfare of the Australian people, which are both legislated objectives of the RBA. The RBA was an early adopter of flexible inflation targeting, and we eschewed the strict, hard-edged versions of inflation targeting which were popular in the 1990s, and I think that was the right call. And I'd note that the recent reviews by the Federal Reserve, by the European Central Bank and the Bank of Canada have all concluded that some form of flexible inflation targeting is the preferred monetary policy framework in their countries. In my view, flexible inflation targeting has served Australia very well, and it remains the best monetary policy regime for Australia. It's certainly worth examining alternatives as part of the current review into the RBA, but I do not see a strong case for a move away from this broad framework. Flexible inflation targeting isn't a perfect monetary policy regime, but it's hard to do better than it. Any monetary policy regime is likely to face challenges in the world that we live in. Our economy is adjusting to the ageing of the population, to climate change, the emergence of digital technologies, slower productivity growth, and an interconnected global economy. So there are a lot of things going on at the moment, as you would all know. These changes are affecting the dynamics of inflation in our country, and I think they will continue to do so. But as our country and our economy continues to adapt, the strong nominal anchor and the flexibility provided by flexible inflation targeting, I think, will both be very helpful. These attributes, a strong nominal anchor and flexibility to respond to changing circumstances, are difficult, although probably not impossible, to replicate with another monetary policy regimes. So I think the bar for moving away from flexible inflation targeting should rightly be very high.